Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna. Shubhadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gurvani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunnivari Shatira Satarine.
Prabhu, I can confirm, they said tomorrow 7 a.m. or something?
6:45.
6:45, which place?
Same place we saw last time.
Oh, okay. Okay, I confirm them because there is no discussion in the forum.
Okay. Maybe she forgot. I left home this morning at 4:30. I just got back at 6:15. Picked up my computer, hoping that I would find something good to read. Give me a second. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. All right, we can. Well, give me one more minute. Maybe 1.5. Hare Krishna. let's try this. Let's see what happens. Are you ready? This is from a book called Sri Bhaktiyaloka by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The 6 faults and qualities of bhakti. So this is about a practitioner. He quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam. And it says, he should conquer, he means us, he should conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by engaging himself only with things in the mode of goodness. Interesting. Well, that's kind of obvious. You conquer passion and ignorance with the mode of goodness. I think that's a duh moment. But of course. Yes? Thus pacified within his mind, the spirit soul, freed from the modes of nature, gives up the very cause of his conditional life and attains me. So, what happens if you die in the mode of ignorance?
Like animals.
Can you die in passion?
People. Human.
What do you become? A pig? What did you say?
Human.
Person? What?
Human.
You die in the mode of goodness?
Demigods.
And you die transcendental? That's interesting, right? It's kind of like you're at a train station, at least in New York. There's doorways you go through, and then you go downstairs, so there's all these doorways. This doorway goes to this place, and this doorway goes to this place. So if you think of the modes of nature like doorways to destinations, it helps. Someone might say, I like the mode of passion. Did you ever say that? Or you didn't say that, but you might say, I like activities in the mode of passion. Prabhu, I'm a passionate person, I like the mode of passion. Okay. That's a doorway to a destination. So, you may like passion activities, but the next question is, do you like the destination of the passion? Do you like the destination where the passionate activities will take you? Maybe not. Then, perhaps a misconception is because the mode of goodness is within the modes of nature, we're not interested in the mode of goodness. We're interested in transcendence. So a lot of devotees think that way. And of course you could support that philosophically. But the problem is, the mode of goodness is the platform to transcendence. And it may be difficult or impossible to get to transcend from passion or ignorance without being in the mode of goodness. It's like there's too many steps from ignorance to transcendence. There's too many steps. So you've got to take each step. But the interesting thing about the mode of goodness is that when we describe the qualities of a devotee, the good qualities, Brahmanical qualities, those are qualities which Krishna says are in the mode of goodness, like qualities you need to be a devotee, like being clean. You need to be clean. And you need to be controlled, isn't it? We need to be controlled, that's obvious. We need to be equipoised, don't get upset all the time, yes? That's mode of goodness. But then you could say, well, if I don't get upset, and I'm equipoised, and I'm clean, will I be Krishna conscious? And the answer is, not necessarily. But then you can say, if I'm not clean, controlled, and peaceful, can I become Krishna conscious? And say, you won't be able to practice it well. So, Those things, like you can follow four regular principles. Will you go back to Godhead if you follow four regular principles?
No.
No. Can you go back to Godhead if you don't follow four regular principles? Not a good chance. So you follow those regular principles. Why? Because it puts you in goodness. And because you're in goodness, then you can chant more purely. Isn't that interesting? So goodness is not a destination. For us, it's a platform. So in one sense, we say, okay, follow these principles. And well, that's all I have to do? No, you have to chant. And those principles will support your chanting. But if you just follow the principles, it's not, you'll be in goodness, and then you'll come back as a demigod or something. So goodness is not the goal, it's the platform. So you can't minimize the importance of it. That's not important, we're transcendental. It's true. If you were transcendental, it wouldn't be important. Because transcending is the goal. But until you reach transcendence, it's important because it's the way you get there. Right?
It's possible to grow up from ignorance to
Straight.
quickly.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. But the problem is,
No, Vita, chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
yes and no, because everyone has experienced going from ignorance to transcendence back to ignorance in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm in ignorance, I'm depressed, I go into kirtan, I get inspired, it's a wonderful kirtan, I'm very happy, then I go home back into ignorance.
Yeah.
So the idea is, when you go home, you fall into goodness, and you stay there. That's so. Lifestyle. You rise early, you bathe, chant mantras, don't eat chilies. Chilies, not too many. You do things in goodness. That will make it easier for you. Anyway, I think it's a nice meditation. If you die in goodness, you become a demigod. Raise your hand if you want to become a demigod. Be honest.
Risky.
Yeah, that's risky.
We have two demigoddesses here. Now,
But it said that you can also, from this position of demigod,
it depends what planet you're on. I think it has to be Brahma Loka. Or some demigods you might, are doing tapasya. But Mahaprabhu's mercy is so amazing that we are told the demigods want to take birth in ISKCON. Well, I don't know if they want to take birth in ISKCON, but that's kind of the biggest player now. They want to take birth as devotees. On earth, they want to get an earth body and become an earthly devotee. So, okay, so you can become a demigod if you die in goodness. And you can live a long time and have a lot of wealth and beauty. And then you can come back as a blade of grass. You can fall. And when you fall, it's so miserable because you've been there so long, you cry, and then your soul comes down in your tear and then hits the earth and you become a blade of grass eaten by an animal. And then, it's like a whole story. It's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
So really, we don't want to be demigods. So if you want to go back to Godhead, and I know this sounds simple, it's so simple, we don't even think about it, and we should. We have to be transcendental. And to be transcendental, we have to be sattvic to start with. Don't try to be transcendental from the mode of passion or the mode of ignorance. It's really, why make it hard on yourself? Don't try to get from the bottom of the stair to the top with one jump. You have to walk up. Then you can jump after one. So here's his explanation. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's explanation. Well, let's read the verse again. He should conquer the modes of passion and ignorance by engaging himself only with things in the mode of goodness. What mode is your guitar in? Well, it depends on the effects, brother. Ignorant effects, passion. Thus pacified in his mind, the spirit soul, freed from the modes of nature, gives up the very cause of his conditioned life and attains me. So, you know this example, we've heard this example. You're handcuffed. You're a criminal. So, the mode of ignorance is like iron handcuffs. The mode of passion is like silver, and the mode of goodness is like gold. But they're still handcuffs. So if you die only in the mode of goodness, you have to come back. Still handcuffs. You just come back in a better body, but it's still handcuffs. Here's the purport. Therefore, people can become free from the modes of nature if they pass their lives dovetailing everything. What's everything? Sattvic objects, activities, time, and place with devotional service. So, this is interesting. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying dovetail sattvic objects and activities. He didn't say dovetail passionate or ignorant, although you can. Can we offer mushrooms to Krishna?
No.
The answer is no and yes. Not to the deity, but you can offer it home. But offering things in lower modes of nature is not as efficient as a process of purification as offering things in goodness. Only human beings, this is so simple, but it's actually very significant if you think of it in the context we're discussing. Only human beings are eligible for propensities in the mode of goodness. So that means we can come to the mode of goodness. From there, we can practice devotional service, transcendence. No animals can do that. The animals can't come to the mode of goodness unless they're already in the mode of goodness. But here, only human beings are eligible for propensities in the mode of goodness. You might say, oh, the cow's in the mode of goodness. But what does it do? It eats, sleeps, so forth. And remaining in that state, they gradually become free from the modes. So, what's the goal of Krishna consciousness? You can say the goal is to love Krishna, but here Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying it a different way. The goal of Krishna consciousness is to become free from the modes of nature. What does Queen Kunti say? You're covered by a curtain of diluting energy. Maya Jalanika Achana. I can't actually see you as you are because I can't see the world as it is because there's a curtain of Maya. Okay. So now he's going to describe the mode of goodness. This is interesting. And you can judge yourself what mode you're in. Or at least you can judge and see how much in the mode of goodness you are. Only human beings are eligible for propensities in the mode of goodness. And remaining in that state, they gradually become free from the modes. The general propensities of human beings in the mode of goodness are described in Srimad Bhagavatam. 7th canto, 11th chapter, text 8 to 12, as follows. Satya, speaking the truth without distortion or deviation. Just like Vaisheshika Prabhu was saying. So we have this tendency to over-exaggerate about our accomplishments and our characteristics. Sometimes someone will say, how did it go? Oh, it was fantastic. But it wasn't fantastic. But if you say it's fantastic, people will think you're special. So sometimes we exaggerate to pump up our ego. Speaking the truth without distortion or deviation. Daya, sympathy to everyone's suffering. If you see somebody suffering and you feel sympathy, that's good. Tapa, austerities, such as observing fasts, like tomorrow's Ekadasi, twice a month on Ekadasi. Socha, cleanliness, bathing regularly at least twice a day, morning and evening. And remembering to chant the holy name of God. Titiksha, toleration. Being unagitated by seasonal changes or inconvenient circumstances. Isn't that interesting? I mean, if you look, just let's look at this example, toleration. If something happens to me and I tolerate it, I stay in goodness. If I don't tolerate it, then I leave goodness at that moment. Then I don't tolerate it, I leave the mode of goodness. Isn't that interesting? You know, things bother us and we very easily become disturbed, which means we very easily leave the mode of goodness, which then means we could say we don't care about staying in goodness because we very easily can leave goodness. Right? You ever get upset? Like it takes like 1 second to get upset. So we're willing to leave the mode of goodness in 1 second. That ever happened to you? Now we're in passion and ignorance, making a fool of ourselves, screaming and complaining. I was thinking someone wrote me a letter, and she said, I'm thinking of doing this, and I'm thinking of doing that, and I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And I said, I think you need to know what your goal in life is, because everything you said sounds fun, but it doesn't mean it's what you should do. Then I was thinking of an example. It's just like, let's say I give you $5,000. So that's just energy. It's potential energy. So what do you do if I gave you $5,000? What would you be thinking right now? You'd be thinking, what can I buy for $5,000? Right? You're thinking, should I get a new computer? Or should I save that so I can come back to India next year? Or should I take this course or go to the seminar or buy these books? You're thinking, isn't it? So it's a resource, and you're thinking, but if I buy the new computer, then I only have $3,500 left, and to take the course is $5,000. So you're calculating, what am I going to do with this energy? How should I spend my energy? So one devotee on Facebook said in a discussion about forgiveness, he said, I don't have time for it. Resentment. I don't have time to be resentful. Just like, I don't have enough money to spend on this. So think of your time as money. Do you have time to be angry? Do you have time to be intolerant? Because every moment we're angry, generally, or intolerant, is a moment that we forget Krishna, isn't it? Okay, so then we can ask the question, do you have time to forget Krishna? Of course the answer is, I don't have time to forget Krishna. Right? Obviously. But somehow or other, we do have time to forget Krishna. Don't we? Do you ever forget Krishna? Does that ever happen to you? And we once in a while. And we forget Krishna in all kinds of strange ways. Not just getting upset or angry, but becoming depressed, thinking, oh, I'm so miserable, my life's so bad, nothing works out. She got a sweet ball, I didn't. No, this is all energy. It's energy. It's being wasted on forgetting Krishna, on thinking of something else. Isn't that interesting? So, something bothers me, okay, there's things that bother all of us. Can I afford to put my energy into forgetting Krishna? Of course the answer is no, but we should ask ourselves that question when we're ready to forget Krishna. Can I afford it? Do you have the time? Prabhu, I know you're agitated, but do you have the time to be angry? Because if you weren't angry, you could actually read Bhagavad Gita, or chant your rounds, or do something productive. It's a nice meditation, isn't it? Time is a resource. Do you have time to be angry, intolerant, unclean? What else did he say? You have time to lie? Time to be unsympathetic? Do you have time? Do you have time? Save time to do austerity. Yeah, okay. So let's read on. We did truth, sympathy or compassion, performing austerities, cleanliness, tolerance, being unagitated by seasonal changes or inconvenient circumstances, iksha, distinguishing between good and bad, Prabhupada said, I guess this is the same. When you're analyzing a situation, he said you should see it with two eyes, one good eye and one bad eye, which means what's good about it and what's bad about it. Because if you're enamored, sometimes you only see what's good about it. Or if you're negative, you only see what's bad about it. So, that's interesting. Iksha, distinguishing between good and bad. And sometimes we don't know that something's bad for us. And sometimes we know something's bad for us and we do it anyway. Have you ever done that? And you chant a mantra. I know this is bad for me, but, and then you have some reason you're going to do it. You ever said that? I know I shouldn't do this, but, yeah. I think that's worse than not knowing. Shama, control of the mind. Not allowing the mind to act whimsically. Okay, so the word whimsical is an interesting word. You know what whimsical means? Who knows what whimsical means? Whimsical means you do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. There's no rule. It's like, okay, Mahatma Prabhu, can you do arti? Okay. You know, he's not following the rules. It's whimsical. Okay, arti's over. Let's have some tea. You do it how you like, without following a rule. Because you feel like it. That's what whimsy means. Why did you do that? Because I felt like it. Could be anything. Why did you punch him in the face? I thought he was ugly. I just punched him. Like that. That's what whimsical means. You understand? You just feel like doing it, so you do it. Why did you eat 100 gulab jamun? Because I felt like it. You have a problem with that? That's whimsical. So, yeah. So Krishna says in the Gita, Yashastra vidhi utsrija vartate kamakarta. He said, if you will give up the injunction of the Shastra because you're whimsical. So he juxtaposes Shastra, which means to control your activity, with whimsy, which means nothing's controlled. So whenever you say, then he says, you can't become perfect or happy if you do that. So, how did I get on this? Not allowing the mind to act whimsically. So, then we have the example of Arjuna. Arjuna was actually whimsical. And how do we know Arjuna is whimsical? Because what did he tell Krishna? Basically he said, well, now that I see who I have to fight, I don't feel like it. And what
But
did
he did
Krishna?
it out of compassion.
That's another thing. Yeah, misplaced compassion. Misplaced compassion. So, when Arjuna says, I don't feel like it, what does Krishna say? Krishna, basically, he didn't use these words, but basically he said, it doesn't matter how you feel, this is what you have to do. So don't be whimsical. Just because you don't feel like it, don't give in to the feeling. That would be whimsical. So many things you do not feel like doing that you should do. Right? Raise your hand if you feel like getting up at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. 3 a.m. 2 a.m. I just heard a story today about the GBC meeting, and there was a sannyas candidate, and one person said, I don't see him doing sadhana. Another devotee says, no, but I live with him. He gets up at 3, he chants 32 rounds, and then he reads for 3 hours. Yeah. That's good, huh? You like that? Yeah. You may not feel like doing it, but it's good. It's good for you. So, now, we understand the difference, and now we can see how whimsical we are, isn't it? We like to do things. This is like very typical of people in Kali Yuga. We like to do things because we like to do them, not because necessarily they're good for us, or not necessarily because it's the right thing, more because we feel like doing it. I like to do this thing. So Krishna's saying, no. So, Krishna's telling Arjuna, it's interesting, all these verses he's saying, fight, it doesn't matter how you feel. If you're happy or sad, fight. If you win or lose, doesn't matter, fight. If it's hot or cold, doesn't matter, fight. What else did he say? Loss or gain, victory or defeat, if you're defamed, defamee, famous, not famous. He went down this whole list of concerns. Well, I don't want to do it unless I'll be successful. I don't want to do it if it won't make me happy. I don't want to do it unless I get honored. Right? That's whimsical. And Krishna's saying, doesn't matter, honor, if the weather's good, if you'll be happy, whatever. What matters is your duty. So basically saying, don't give into your feelings at the moment, but give into your dharma. Interesting, right? Did you know that? Did you ever think like that? Arjuna was whimsical? But Arjuna was really bad. You know why? Not only was he whimsical, but he was trying to rationalize it. Because if you rationalize being whimsical, then you don't have to admit you're whimsical. But actually you'll think, you're compassionate. You're compassionate. And Krishna smashed all those reasons. So they couldn't have been that good. He had good reasons, so-called good reasons. And that's what that whole conversation is. Basically, if you unpack the conversation, you could say Arjuna saying, I want to be whimsical. And Krishna's saying, don't be whimsical. No, but I want to be whimsical. I want to do what I want. I just don't feel like fighting. It's not the right thing. These poor people, they're my teachers and friends. And Krishna's saying, no. You have a duty. No, but I don't want to do my duty. I'll do someone else's duty. How about if I become a Brahmin? Is that okay? It's all like, this is how I feel. And so everything he's saying, it's whimsical. And then you say, but Arjuna was compassionate. And Prabhupada says, it was good he's compassionate. He's a devotee, but it was whimsical compassion. compassionate at the wrong time to the wrong people, at the wrong place. So even compassion can be whimsical when misplaced. Isn't that interesting? Yes? And you know, if you read the purport, Prabhupada says, Arjuna is a devotee, therefore he's compassionate. It's a good quality. It was just the wrong time for it. You know, it's like there's somebody coming down the street to kill you and you're serving prasadam. The wrong time to serve prasadam. Time to get up and run. So it was like that. Compassion is good, but this is the wrong time for it. So when you understand the second chapter in that light, it becomes very interesting because you see everything Krishna is saying, it all comes back to this and that doesn't matter, just do your duty. That's what you have. Yes?
Gurudev, so the thing is though, Arjuna's arguments seemed very shastric, so it makes me think that in our own lives also, we can perform devotional service and it looks on paper to be perfect, but it could be whimsical without us knowing. So it seems to me like what really helps you to ultimately escape whimsical devotional service is to follow the instructions of your Guru.
What a novel idea. Gopi Janaval Gopi Jivan has given us a very novel and profound idea. Follow the instructions of your Guru. Wow, who would have ever thought of that? Sometimes our minds get so complicated or dull, depending on the case, that we can't even come up with the right answer, the right simple answer. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Dhamma, control of the mind, not allowing the senses to act without control. Control of the senses. Ahimsa, non-violence, not subjecting any living entity to the threefold miseries. Brahmacharya, continence or abstaining from misuse of one's semen, not indulging in sex with women other than one's own wife, and not having sex with one's own wife when sex is forbidden, like during the period of menstruation. Tyaga, giving in charity at least 50% of one's income. Which means they were all making 50% more money than they needed, I guess, in those times. Or it was common. Swadhyaya, reading of transcendental literature like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramayana Mahabharata, Shadalata, which we discussed yesterday, simplicity, freedom from mental duplicity. And that we discussed, remember? This duplicity was described as basically saying one thing but being something else, showing one face, but in private being different. When I'm reading these qualities, are any of you thinking, I don't do this? Or this is difficult? Yes? No? Tolerance, austerities, sympathy, tolerance, control of the mind, control of the senses, not causing pain to others, continence, giving in charity 50%, not so easy, right? Simplicity, freedom from mental duplicity, being satisfied with that which is available without severe endeavor. That's interesting, isn't it? You know, most people are not satisfied with what they get. They endeavor to get more, isn't it? Let's get a better job, let's work extra hours. Like that. Samadarshi Janera Seva, rendering service to the saintly persons, with no distinction between one living being and another, and who see every living being as spirit soul. Gramya Cheshta Hoite Navriti, not taking part in so-called philanthropic activities, distinguishing unnecessary activities, being grave and silent, research into the self. Anadira Vibhaga, equal distribution of food, Sakala Loke, Bhagavan Sambandha Buddhi, accepting all living entities as related to the Lord. And as well as hearing, chanting, and remembering, etc., the 9 processes. Wow. Yes. So, what I wanted to say a minute ago is, these are considered sattvic qualities. Like qualities you and I need to be Krishna conscious. And you know, we talk about this argument. No, when you become a devotee, Prahlad Maharaj said you get all good qualities. And there's a lecture in Prabhupada. And that verse, Prahlad Maharaj says, you get all good qualities, and non-devotees don't have any good qualities. And there's a lecture Prabhupada said, no, the non-devotees' good qualities are not fully developed. So this is interesting, because this is saying you need these qualities to practice devotional service. And then we say, but when you practice devotional service, these qualities will develop. So now what do? You can't do the service if you don't have the quality. But if you do the service, you get the qualities. So what does it mean? It means if you practice these, you come to the mode of goodness. These are the actions in the mode of goodness. But what if I'm in the mode of ignorance? All right, we'll stop doing things that people in the mode of ignorance do. How about that for starters? What should I do if I'm in the mode of ignorance? Let me think. Take a bath, tolerate, control your mind. All these things. You just do it, and that puts you in the mode of goodness. Right? So I think the problem is a lot of us are making Krishna consciousness hard on ourselves because we're trying to do it from passion or ignorance. You're lying in bed, your soft bed, your nice soft pillow, warm blanket, and all of a sudden, and you don't want to get up because it's so comfortable. And so what do you say to yourself? I'll get up in 5 minutes. And 5 minutes turns out to be an hour. And then you look at your watch, it's an hour late, and it's like, well, why even get up now? Because I'm already late, so might as well just stay in bed. Okay. We've all done it at least once. So we finally get up, and it's like, oh, I blew it. We're kind of depressed. We're starting on a bad note. And then the rounds don't go so well because we got up late. And basically, not really such a great day. And then we say, how are you doing today, Prabhu? And you go, oh, not too good. I got up late. My rounds weren't good. You ever had that? You ever had a day like that? Maybe I should say, have you ever not had a day like that? So, when that happens, we're not feeling very good. We're not very happy. And if we would have just gotten up when the alarm went off, and we got up and chanted our rounds, even though body wouldn't have been comfortable, by 9 in the morning, we would feel better. Or 8 or 7, isn't it? What does that mean? This is very interesting. If you make a dog do austerity, like fast on Ekadasi, like that, get him up at 4 a.m., will he be happy? I don't think so. What do you think? Okay, today 5-0, it's a fast day, so there'll be no breakfast. Will the dog be happy? No. Because his body and mind is not constituted to be happy by doing austerity. He won't be happy. No animal would be happy doing austerity, unless it's part of their dharma, like bulls like to pull and work. So that's different. But if a human being does austerity, it makes them happy. Isn't that interesting? What did Prabhupada say? A pigeon has sex how many times a day? 30? A couple times a month. What?
A lot.
Yeah, so we'll use 30. Well, let's use 24 now. Once every hour, right? I don't think any human being would be happy doing that. I think they would get burned out. Physically, emotionally, mentally, in every way. But a pigeon can do it and he's fine. It's a different body. So, you study the construction of the human body and the human mind. It's meant to do austerity. That's how it becomes happy. And it's like counterintuitive. Well, if I get up early and I go into this cold bathroom and I take a bath because I'm going to the temple and I have to be clean. And I had to wash my clothes last night because I have to wear clean clothes in the temple because you can't wear dirty clothes. So, what do the women say? My wife, I hate this word, but I say, what do they say? It's so something. Annoying. I never use that word. My wife and her friends, they're always so annoying. I have to wear clean clothes every day. It's so annoying. You have to take a bath before you. It's cold outside. And it's so annoying. Yeah, you ever said that? But if you do it, how do you feel? You feel good. Right? Well, I'm glad I got up and it was difficult. I'm a little tired. And I fell asleep for a few minutes in japa, but I'm okay. I'm glad I did it. The human body and mind is meant to be happy doing austerity. And if you indulge in too much sense gratification, the human body cannot be happy. It becomes unhappy. Isn't that interesting?
But there has to be balance between austerity and...
Can't do, yeah. Obviously, too much austerity will make you miserable.
Won't or will?
Will. But our austerity is all around sadhana and service.
But it seems that the level of austerity is different for different people. And we have to find this our...
No, that's a detail. It's another point. It's a principle. So, do you remember the qualities? Being grave and silent. You like that one? Okay, so why don't we take questions or comments?
I have a question, because we may be in passion, but we may use this passion, because we see some devotees who are like very about like managing, organizing, doing things, and they are like using this, it seems to be amount of passion in service.
Okay, so I would say, let's ask the question. If it seems like a devotee is in passion, or he's working passionately, or working in a varna that is governed by passion, then how does he deal with that? Or how do we know that he or she is not being affected? And how could we even say it's passion? Maybe we just think it's passion and it's not. And so you judge by the result. If that person is doing passionate activities passionately, and he's becoming detached, then it's not the mode of passion. If he's becoming agitated and attached and disturbed and intolerant and weak in spiritual life, yeah, then it's the mode of passion. So not because someone's passionate means necessarily they're in the mode of passion. You have to judge by results.
Arjuna walking like passion. Totally fighting. Looks like work on the passion.
Depends why you're doing it. It can be passion, but it can be engaged. You're a kshatriya, so you're in passion, but you're engaging it. So once you engage it, it's not passion. It's transcendental. Right, I mean, look at this example. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Kamoshvi Bharatarshava. I am sex. So now you're engaging sex, and it becomes spiritual. More or less, kind of, sort of. It's not a very spiritual activity in and of itself. It's a very passionate activity. Which then Krishna says, I become that activity. When the devotee is passionate, it doesn't mean necessarily he's in the mode of passion. Maybe his nature, he's always active. If you saw my life, you could say I'm in the mode of passion. You know why? Because I'm gone all day, and I'm doing my correspondence at 3:30 in the morning before I go to the temple. That's pretty passionate. A passionate time should be chanting and studying. But like I said, I'll go back home at 8:30, and I'd be gone, basically gone since 4:30. So when do I do everything? And then I come back at night and okay, let's get the phone out, the email, and then I go to bed like 10:30, and I look like total passion. But if you know me, you know I'm not a passionate person. But it's just circumstantially, because I don't have time to do it. Things are falling through the cracks because I don't have much time. So I would look, if you saw me the last few days, you'd say, God, he's so passionate. He's like working late at night, getting up early in the morning and working. But it's not necessarily passion. Yes?
Gurudev, I don't know if this question is related enough, so feel free to ignore it. When you were speaking in the beginning of the class about the different destinations you'll go to because of the modes, and then if you're transcendental, you go back to God. It just made me think about something that I have never quite fully understood. There's this idea that if you become pure, then you won't mind where you end up because you can serve Krishna from any destination.
Yes.
But then other devotees would say that's sentimental, just desire to go back to God. But to me, the desire to go back to God, it sounds like a desire for liberation. So, how do I make sense of it?
So he's asking the question. We hear a devotee is ready to go to hell for Krishna. He'll go wherever Krishna wants him, he'll go. And we also hear that we should desire to go back to Godhead. And both answers are correct. But it depends on the devotee. Because let's say, we say, Krishna, whatever you want, I'm prepared to come back in this material world again and again to save the fallen conditioned souls. Yeah, and then you come back in the material world and you become a fallen conditioned soul instead of saving them. So that's possible. Right? So in a case where a devotee is not that advanced, then him saying, I want to come back and save the fallen conditioned souls is number one, it's a little artificial, and number two, there's a good chance he'll become a conditioned soul again. So if Prabhupada saw a person in that situation to say you should desire to go back to Godhead, because that will be good for that person.
But does that mean desire to go back so you can serve, I guess? Not so
Yeah,
that you
of
can
course.
just escape suffering.
That may be there though. I mean, we all join to escape suffering. So that helped us become devotees. Now you advance more, the motive should change. So it's true, very advanced devotees will go anyway for Krishna. But Prabhupada has told devotees you should desire to go back to Godhead. But if you look at Shastra, it says that desire to go back to Godhead is a material desire. So what's the answer? Depends on the person. Okay, it's a material desire, but it's better than the desire for sense gratification. And practically all of us get so motivated by thinking I could get out of the material world and go back to God. Isn't it? It's a huge motivation, isn't it? We saw a dead body today. I don't know if you all saw the dead body, but there was a dead body at the cremation grove. So I was telling the devotees that some devotees didn't want to see that dead body. It made them feel uneasy, understandably. And I said to some devotees, I said, but you know, there are advantages to dying. If you don't like your husband or wife, when you're dead, you don't have to deal with him anymore. If you don't like your job, you don't have to work anymore. If you have pain in your body, you don't have it anymore. So, you know, you can look at it in different ways. And some devotees look at it like that, isn't it? Some devotees are like, I just want to die and go back to God. So, for them, that's good. That helps them. So it just depends on what level you're at. I just want to say the fallen conditions of Mahaprabhu, let me experience all the karma of all souls. You know, like, you can't pray like that. Because if you started getting into karma, you'd go crazy and you'd fall down. So you have to pray what's real for you. And so for a lot of us, what's real is, I want to get out of here. And that becomes gives you impetus. But if I say, no, it's a material desire, it's bhakti contaminated with gyan, and you should only pray purely for devotional service, I would be right in saying that, 100%. But it may not be right for you, because maybe you can't do it. So is it artificial for you? We gave the example the other day. Every instruction has a context. So for you, I say you should go back to Godhead. For you, I say you should just desire to serve Krishna. Why? Because she doesn't need that impetus to go back to Godhead. She's already transcendental, or already advanced enough that she's desired pure devotional service. So you're two different people, you get two different instructions. You remember the example we gave? This is such a good example. This is so important to understand this example. If you're not awake, raise your hand, and we'll spray you with water. We'll spill tea on you. Should give me a squirt gun. Can somebody get me a squirt gun? And they're not sleeping, I can squirt them. So, when you get an instruction, it will depend on who you are and how, in order to understand how to apply that instruction. So, what is your level of advancement? What is your life, and so forth. And so sometimes you get these instructions and you read them, it doesn't make any sense because you can't apply it. It was like meant for another age and time. Right? So the example is given. If we go into the forest, I will say, take deep breaths. It's healthy, and we'll all go. And it's good for us if the air is clean. And then if we go in the Ganga, and I say, go under, stay under as long as you can, and take a deep breath, it's going to kill you. So the same thing that's going to give you life when you're underwater will kill you. That's how you want. So it's the same instruction, but in one incident it gives you energy, and in one incident it kills you because the context has changed. Such a good example, isn't it? And that's why one instruction is not always applicable to everyone in every situation. So for you, I say you should never go back to Godhead. For her, I say you shouldn't. You should just whatever Krishna wants. You should just do, because she's already more advanced.
But the question arises that these personal instructions, not every devotee has this personal relationship with your own spiritual master. That's why reading Prabhupada's books and listening classes, we are getting these general instructions that may not necessarily apply to our lives. So, and then we can do things that are harming us, not helping us.
What to do?
What to do?
Become smart. The more you understand Prabhupada's books, the more context you'll have for the instructions. If you ever hear an instruction and it just violates your common sense or your intuition, then sit on it and try to discuss it with more learned devotees and see what they think it means. Because there are instructions like that. And you don't want to blindly understand them. You want to have depth. Like, Prabhupada gave that instruction. Every man should be brahmachari. And every woman should get married. Text. And you need your own context, and you need to understand who you are. So right now, let's ask this question. The Shastra says to want to go back to Godhead is not a pure desire. But Prabhupada told some devotees they should. So what do you think is best for you? You have two different instructions. What do you think? What would be this, if you say, okay, Krishna, whatever you want, I'll come back. What do you think? You might come back and fall into Maya? Is that possible? What do you think? Possible? What if you took birth in your next life in Beverly Hills? Any of you ever been to Beverly Hills?
Not yet.
50% of your life is wasted. Anyway, I grew up around there. It's pretty nice. There's nicer places above it. It's just so. Let's say you're born in Beverly Hills, and you're very beautiful and very smart. You had very good karma. But in your last life, it's, oh Krishna, whatever you want, I just want to serve you. Now you're in this situation, you're not that advanced yet. There's a good possibility you may not even take up devotional service. It's possible. So understanding that, then ask yourself, how would I apply this instruction? Which instruction would be better for me? Desiring to go back to Godhead, or desiring whatever Krishna wants and just put me there? And if you desire the second before you're ready, it's not going to help you. It has to be real. So, like there's so many instructions you get and you think, okay, can I do this? Like when we're brahmacharis, it's like taboo to talk about getting married. It's like, that discussion does not go on in the brahmachari ashram. The discussion that goes in the brahmachari ashram, I mean maybe things are changing now, but in many ashrams, well, it's best not to get married. So the man has to ask the question, is that best for me? I'm told it's best. I read that it's best not to get married. Will that be best for me? He has to make a decision. Is that real for me? So that's context that you always have to ask yourself. Like we had this discussion the other day. When you hear about Thakur Haridas, then it's like for Prahlad Maharaj, they're being killed and they're not angry. Not only they're not angry, they're praying for the person who killed them, and they think, this is like, I can't relate to this. But you have to figure out how to relate to it according to where you're at. So what in this story can I relate to? That's what you have to do with Shastra. Otherwise, I can't relate to it. But it's there for you to relate to. You just have to figure out how it relates to you. So maybe after I read the story of Haridas Thakur praying for the people who tried to kill him, maybe I might think, I should apologize to that devotee. So I'm not going to, it's not as severe as Thakur Haridas, but I get some benefit in my world. Yes?
I heard the other day, I never heard this before, my friend was telling me that we have 3 gurus, like Shiksha, Diksha, and Mahatma in our heart. And I have never heard that.
You have more than 3.
Oh. But the Paramatma also can consider.
Yeah, it's called Chaita Guru.
Oh. Chaita Guru.
Yeah, Vardhma Pradashika Guru, the person who first taught you about Krishna. Then you have, in Bhagavatam, I don't know, maybe it's 11th canto, 24 gurus, like nature, what you learn. But 6 gurus, you can have as many as you